Hello and welcome to Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Furrow. I'm Karen McCarthy. In this edition, getting your warrant of fitness, and we're not talking about the car. Focus on farmer welfare, the move to keep yourself and others fit and well. Busting the myth that farmers are less affected by stress and illness than city folk, and why emotional well-being is just as important, how to recognise signs of trouble, and what research reveals about the top causes of stress on the farm and what you can do about it. My guest this week, Lynda Clark from the Dairy Women's Network, a founding member in fact. Thanks for being with us. And Brent Nielson, a 20-year veteran with St John's, now with the New Zealand Rural Institute, both heavily involved with maintaining farmer health and well-being. Thanks for being with us. Why all the focus on farmer stress and well-being in the last couple of years? They've soldiered on by themselves, it seems, for so long. Why are we taking more of an interest now?
I'd really like to acknowledge that it's this initiative is a Dairy NZ initiative, and we're very excited to be involved with this initiative. I think it's giving due attention to the people in the dairy business. For a long time we have had a strong focus on our cows and our grass and our financial performance, and we understand those really well. This is about the people, and we know that to have people in the industry long term, we need to bring people into the industry and to keep those people in the industry. So there's been a wonderful focus now on understanding the people and the contribution to the business.
Longer serving and healthy farmers make better decisions, stay in the industry longer, and that's how New Zealand will maintain its competitive advantage with dairying.
It's all about productivity, I guess, in the end.
In the long run, people are a big contributor to it.
Absolutely, and it is within the dairy business we know we need the land, the cows and the people, and that needs to be sustainable.
Have people been neglected or neglected themselves for too long? Is that part of the problem? Dairy NZ has realised that our people are our greatest asset.
It's a celebration, isn't it? The fact that our people are our greatest asset in the dairy business. And with that, we know too that the average age of farmers is increasing. And
what is it? Do we know what's the average age of a typical cocky dairy farmer?
Depends on the style of work that they're doing, but certainly farm owners are in their 50s. Yes,
and well into their 50s. My understanding is around that 55, 58 is the average age of farmers within the dairy industry and other sectors as well within the agricultural sector.
And is that ageing of the population a big concern when it comes to health and sustainability, I guess?
Yeah, certainly increase as age increases, visits to the GP increase and use of health services increase. So for us it's about a health warrant of fitness, so pointing out what may be potential problems in the future, and hopefully by letting farmers know of the current state of their health, that's the first step in changing to improve it.
Do farmers tend to think they're bulletproof? Do they soldier on and not tend to go to the doctor until it's too late?
Yeah, and farmers have lacked information about their own health. So there's a city worth of dairy farmers across this nation. Dairying's the largest single contributor to GDP, but there's no information about dairy farmer health, and that's what we're setting about improving with nearly 2,100 farmers that we will have seen.
Well, tell us, Brent, about the research that's been underway the last couple of years by yourself and others. You were behind the introduction of, I think it's called the Pit Stop program for farmers.
The Health Pit Stop?
The Health Pit Stop.
Tell us about that.
Right, so it's a 5 or 7 minute check where we're inquiring about a farmer's health history, about their attitudes to health and safety, and some physical checks. Now those physical checks have included body mass index, have included non-fasting cholesterol, their blood pressure and blood glucose. What we've found, the typical farmer is ageing, and they have significant cardiovascular risk that's developing. So that's been the first.
It's been enlightening, and it's been really good to have a snapshot and to give us an understanding of the health of the people in the dairy business, and both as owners and share milkers and as employees within the dairy business. And we've talked about the average age of the owner or increasing. We're conscious too that we want to attract good, bright, intelligent young people into the dairy business, and we want to keep them.
Yeah, so they've got to be there for the long haul.
They've got to be there for the long haul, so we need to develop a language around the wellness of our people in the business, and that's the beginning, is talking about, okay, what are the physical parameters that are important with these people?
Yeah. So we've added words like cholesterol and body mass index to a farmer's vocabulary, which they knew a similar language for their stock, but not for themselves.
Yes, and we often talk about the fact that we know within our cars we monitor their body condition score perfectly through the year, and we've got booklets on it, how to measure it, we have training classes. We know a lot about those individual cows. We know very little about the people, and we've had some quite enlightening moments around understanding around the body condition trend or scorcher of humans within the dairy business, and this huge weight loss that occurs at some of the times of the year, especially around calving, when people are really, I look at they're a top performing athlete and they're running a marathon.
It's a tough time of year, isn't it? It's 24/7, they're up day and night.
Exactly, it's exceptionally tough, and these people often come in and they start at a body weight. Anecdotally, I've talked to people and they talk about losing 5 to 10 kilos through this period of time.
Wow, over the course of what, a couple of months?
Yeah, 8 to 12 weeks, and they say, look, they are just so busy, and yes, the energy's going in, but perhaps not enough for the marathon effort that is going on there around exceptionally long hours and a high energy output at that time.
These health checks in the pit stops, are you having to sort of drag farmers kicking and screaming along to them, or are they lining up?
Look, it's been a very popular program. They've been lining up in field days this year. At Mystery Creek we had queues of people. Now part of that is accessibility, because for example for a farmer to have a cholesterol check, it would involve seeing the doctor, that's a trip to town, and then it's another trip after they've done, for example, half a day's work to have a fasting cholesterol check done. So the checks have been very popular.
They are exceptionally popular, and we've got the demand. We can't meet the supply,
right?
Which is great.
And you're getting out. You're taking them out into Muhammad, basically. You're going where the farmers are.
We've sat in dairy farmers' kitchens. We've sat in hay barns during consulting officers' discussion groups, and we've been at large events.
And done some exceptionally long hours at the likes of some of the field days and big conferences that do happen.
And what have you learned? Do they have an awareness of their bodies, of the need to keep fit and well?
Part of what we're finding is the changing face of dairying. So farmers tell us that they aren't having as much exercise as they used to. So where one would walk, there's now a bike available and so on. And we believe that's contributing to the trend of increase in cardiovascular risk factors, where farmers are getting larger, where blood pressure tends to chase that, and where cholesterol in many cases has been elevated as well.
And there has been a change with regards to the change in the demographics of dairying and the greater diversity of ownership structures. And we're conscious too that as people progress through that career pathway, that perhaps there's less exercise and there's more time spent on a vehicle. People talk about being time poor, so it's on the quad bike. I haven't got time to walk anywhere. It's on the quad bike, in the vehicle, on the phone and behind the computer.
Which is all very stressful.
It is very stressful, and it's often quite sedentary. So yes, there's a lot of activity, but perhaps the exercise levels, especially post-calving, when we get through those really, really busy peak times, that it becomes exceptionally busy activity, but perhaps the exercise doesn't happen to quite the same level.
It's interesting, and it is quite illuminating, isn't it? Because it's quite the opposite of what you would imagine of a farmer being out in the paddocks.
Fresh air, exercise, healthy. Exactly.
The reality has become something quite different.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably important to acknowledge that for some who are very hands-on and they're putting up fences day in, day out, walking up and down a herringbone in the pit, they will be having that exercise. So we're not saying it's the one size fits all, but acknowledging the fact that as people do progress in the career, that perhaps it is becoming a wee bit more sedentary than than it was once upon a time.
Things are changing. Coming up, more on farmer wellness and preventing rural road accidents. The road outside of Farmgate is probably one of the most familiar stretches of tar seal or gravel for most farmers. It's also where you're most likely to have a crash. Hello, I'm Karen McCarthy and you're back with Straight Talk and our guests Lynda Clark and Brent Nielson. It's not all about the physical well-being of farmers. There's the big issue too of emotional well-being and stress. What are some of the key stresses, I guess, on the farm that you know about?
And that's a really important point, Karen, because the whole project, this program of work, is about both the physical and emotional well-being of dairy farmers. So we're very conscious that the emotional well-being is very, very important. And some of those stresses are stresses that are outside the control of the farmer. And I guess that's what adds, and turns it from a stress to a distress, really, and it becomes negative. And financial pressures are really significant. There's a significant amount of debt out there within our industry. The other one is the climatic challenges. We can't prevent that, change it. We just need to be equipped to deal with that, and that's that whole area of resilience. Relationships, that pops up time and time again, and it's the relationships with those in their team, their staff, and that really can become quite a stressor on the farm. And health issues as well, and compliance. The other one that comes through to us is the ongoing and growing need to manage and maintain compliance, and we know that's going to grow. So it's really equipping farmers with the skills to deal with those factors.
We hear a lot of complaints from farmers about regional councils, tough new policies, fear of being found out as a polluter, that kind of thing. It must all weigh very heavy, I guess, just when you're trying to go about your day-to-day business.
Indeed, and it's never one factor. It's always a combination of typically those 5 factors that add up to the full picture of stress for a farmer.
What about bigger farms, bigger herds, more technology, more complex machinery?
And larger debt.
Larger debt.
More stress.
Right. Stress, fatigue. Yes. This is a daily battle, Brent, I guess, for most farmers.
Yes, indeed. And the fatigue cycle is seasonal as well. So we're now at the end of calving, where long hours have contributed. Second part of fatigue relates to the age groups, and so we're finding 15 to 24-year-olds at risk of accident as a result of fatigue, and there's a second peak in the plus 45-year-olds.
They're working some exceptionally long hours, and we've got a very exciting piece of research as part of this program happening out of Lincoln University, and that's really looking at ways that we can understand and improve stress and fatigue on dairy farms. The hours of work are horrendous in some cases and possibly not sustainable. So we need to be creative as to how we can promote decent dairying to an employee and for those on their career pathway.
And what are some of the solutions? I guess, you know, having a holiday isn't always easy. You can't always get off the farm, can you?
That's right. We just sometimes joke about this because sometimes when people that have or faced with a situation, the answer from the medical they might be seeing says, well, look, take a holiday. They might be the owner-operator. They're the only person that can actually run that farm. So we need to be more sophisticated in our answers around understanding that. But certainly, I think some of the simple solutions, not simple, but there are some creative people, and they're doing some great jobs, some of these guys on these large entities around rosters.
Yeah, and for example, the Rural Support Trust.
Yes.
It's a matter of destigmatising emotional well-being as well. It's okay to talk about being stressed. And support groups aren't as active as they used to be in rural communities. So farmers tell us that they would see a neighbouring farm that was in difficulty, and they would feel comfortable about going along, making themselves known to that farmer. The community would gather and help them out. And those types of activities don't exist like they used to.
Why is there more isolation these days?
I think it's the nature that people are exceptionally busy and are cramming more into their days. So that through Dairy Women's Network, we've have regional groups, and part of the role of those regional groups is they do have these gatherings and promote the getting together. And some of the groups have a neat initiative. I love it. It's called a Moo Moan, and it's the time of the year when people are the busiest. But they talk about the benefit of coming along, meeting with some friends in a cafe very quickly, and having a quick dump really of this is happening with the calving, this is happening on the farm, these are the issues I'm working, and that is a brilliant de-stressor. And the fact the problem shared is a problem halved. We need to create those same opportunities for everyone within our dairy industry.
I was going to say blokes aren't quite so good maybe at sort of meeting at the cafe, or are they? That kind
That's
of
right.
thing. Yeah.
Over the fence it usually happens, isn't it?
And that's the thing, I imagine, Brent, that, you know, chances are if you're having a tough time of it, the bloke down the road's having a tough time of it as well.
That's what farmers tell us.
A problem shared's a problem halved.
Yeah.
That's right. And certainly the comment I hear a lot is the value of the Dairy NZ discussion groups and the forum of people with, they might be having a particular focus group, but it's the ability to get together, even at this time of the year, and talk about things that are significant. But often it's not the technical nature of that that's so important as the actually getting together and having some social contact with people outside of your farm.
We'd love farmers to talk about their own health at those types of events rather than just the land and their animals as well. And that's where the Health Pit stops, endeavouring to raise awareness.
You had 20 years with St John's, I know. Is the whole rural, is this new territory for you, new turf, or you know, what have you learned in the couple of years that you've been involved?
Well, for me, learning about dairying and farming has been a steep learning curve, but introducing words like cholesterol and blood pressure and body mass index to farmers' vocabulary has been positive, and it's been such a well-received program. It's been a delight to be part of that.
And it's exciting. We've understood a lot about our cows. We know cow nutrition backwards, you know, and we have and things like glycemic index and carbohydrates and starch were a part of our cow talk. We want that to be part of the people talk, so that people understand the significance of glycemic index around our intake. You know, if we want to work these long hours, what can we fuel our bodies with to ensure that we can run the marathon or we can last the distance and we can perform at a high level making good decisions?
And there's very little education about nutrition, and so for some younger people we've noted the impact of Coke and the vitamin drinks, particularly on blood sugar. So it's been useful. There's been quite a demand to share information about the ongoing impact of that on people's lives.
Let's talk about risks close to home too. We mentioned rural road accidents right outside the farm gate, the stretch of road where farmers are most likely to have a crash. Brent, St John's, 20 years, you must have seen some accidents. Familiarity is it can be fatal?
Oh, indeed. And ACC data shows that the majority of accidents happen close to your home. Certainly whilst road and vehicle technology has improved and there has been a decline overall in the number of accidents, it's still an issue. And from our work we know that 5 out of 6 farmers still consume alcohol, and some of them consume that uncomfortably large amounts.
And fatigue is a major factor, I guess.
That's indeed the case. And so now where farmers have just come out of calving, it's the chance to replenish, to recharge their own bodies and to keep the weight off that they've dropped.
We know that fatigue is very real, and some of these young people are working big hours on their farms with a significant number of days on in a row. Then they get the time off and it's the chance to connect with their friends, and fatigue and accidents are very closely linked, we suspect.
And Karen, not just on the roads outside their property, but on the farm. And so we've noticed an improvement in the attitude to wearing cycle helmets, and I can tell you from experience that quad bike accidents are far too frequent.
You mentioned helmets. I know that there is more use of helmets, less smoking going on as well, which is a good thing.
Yes, and do you want to talk about that, Brent, just around the figures and the data? It's quite encouraging. There's some nice positives out there.
Yeah, we know that about 10% of farmers smoke, and that compares to about 20% of the New Zealand population.
That's a good example.
That's encouraging. Conversely, perhaps talking about sun hats, sunscreen and checks for skin cancers, so that's attitudinal stuff. Those 3 combined are the best preventer of skin cancer. And we're just coming up on...
Just heading into that time, really, around taking good preventative measures on farm and supporting those around you to do that.
It's basic stuff, isn't it? But it's just pays to remind people.
Absolutely.
It's easy to let these things go by, let them slide.
And 8 out of 9 people don't do those 3. So it's sun hat, sunscreen and having checks with your GP.
That's a nice word going into summer. Hopefully summer finally gets here when it comes. More in store after the break, including last words from our guests and from us as we bid farewell to Straight Talk. Hello, welcome back to Straight Talk with Lynda Clark and Brent Nielson. This research has been very much driven by the dairy industry and focused on dairy farmers. What about other industries, the beef and lamb sectors?
And we're certainly hearing from those other sectors, and we're very aware that within the sheep and beef industry there are the similar issues. The average age of farmer within that industry is also around the 55 to 58. We're conscious too that they also are often the owner-operator, so there's no relief on farm. And there are some high periods of physical exertion around, fences up, lambing, etc. So yes, the issues are there as well. I suspect we're privileged to be an industry that's being very proactive around that and taking some very positive steps around the sustainability of the people in the industry.
So we suspect that these issues that we've uncovered are not unique to dairying, but we respect Dairy NZ for taking the initiative to look after people in such a forefront manner.
They're setting a good example.
A wonderful example.
Others hopefully will will pick up the ball?
We need people in our dairy business. We won't have enough people to man the farms going forward at the production that we want to achieve within New Zealand. So we need to be attracting people into that industry and have them performing at a really good level.
Last words from both of you perhaps then, just on, in a nutshell, what should your typical cocky keep in mind about their health, physical and emotional? What do they need to keep in the forefront of their minds, Brent?
So it's a matter of looking after their own health as much as they look after the health of their stock. At the moment, most farmers have lost weight through calving and seasonal changes to keep that weight off and to match nutrition in with the energy demands of the day.
And as we talked earlier, we know a lot about the cows and we're very conscious of the nutrition of our cows. Let's bring some of that attention to ourselves and those in our team. So matching energy in with energy out is not a new language for dairy farmers. And I think within that, my passion is to really develop a language around our people. We have great languages around our cows, grass and finances. Let's have a language around the people on our farms and how we can share how it's going for our people and have some figures to say, yep, we are doing well as to how we look after the people in our dairy businesses.
And it's just about, not just about looking after yourself, it's about looking after your staff as well, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yep.
This is a team effort, and the high-performing farms have high-performing teams. And they are teams, I've found just in the work that we've done throughout New Zealand to date, Karen, that those that really value their people are looking at these issues. How can we objectively look at the stress within the dairy business?
And where there's a lightening of the workload at the moment on the farm, use this opportunity to see your GP for that health check and to prepare for summer with the skin check, the sun hat and the sunscreen.
And remember, you're not bulletproof. You need to look after yourself.
Absolutely, and just communicating. And somebody mentioned once, it's as simple as communication. It is, but we need to sometimes learn to listen and to talk. And it's problem halved. Problem shared is a problem halved.
And where, you mentioned Rural Support Trust just before, where can farmers turn when it all starts to get too much, if they're stressing out more than they can cope with on their own?
So start with the people on their farm, start with their neighbours and agencies such as the Rural Support Trust
so just
across New Zealand.
Talk to somebody, it's that simple.
Talk to somebody and look out for the signs. If you see somebody is not getting out of bed, or if you see somebody who's kicking the dog, yelling at the cows, yelling at the kids, just those changes of behaviour, be observant and look out for each other. And I think to me that's one of the really most powerful things that we can do is have that compassion for each other and just keep an eye out for each other because you'll notice the changes.
It's tough when you're busy, as I say, 24/7 on a farm, but it's just be aware of yourself and each other.
Absolutely.
Well, good work and keep up the good work and hopefully the other industries, as I say, beef and sheep will look at what dairy's doing and learn a few things. It's in everybody's interest.
And we're in an exciting phase of the project, aren't we? And it's now looking at the fact of how we take some of the knowledge that we know and say, how can we now impact and have some changes happening on farm to really reflect what we have learnt.
Awareness being the first step.
Yeah.
Awareness is number one.
Absolutely.
And what of the future? What's next for your initiative, for your health initiative?
We've got some exciting things in store within Dairy Women's Net. We've got a conference happening next March, which will certainly have a focus, underlying focus around health of our people within the dairy industry. Also, though, we've got an initiative. We have Dairy Days that run nationwide. And these days are an opportunity for women to come and learn about aspects of the dairy business. We're excited to have a focus around, let's learn about body condition scoring in dairy cows. Let's transfer that and get the tape measure out and look at our own waist circumference and those in the dairy business. But what can we take from what we know about our cows to our people, both in the area of the physical wellness and nutrition.
And women are very much the guardians or the gatekeepers, aren't they, of health on the farm?
Key influencers, and they are the gatekeeper to the dairy business, and they certainly are key influencers around the physical and emotional well-being of the people in their business and them, and their partners.
All power to you, to both of you. You've been watching Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Furrow. Thank you to my guests, Lynda Clark and Brent Nielson, for being with us. Sadly, this is the last Straight Talk. Country 99 TV has plans and they don't include us. I've only been with the program this year, but would like to thank all of you who've watched for more than 2 years, and especially to all the guests who've made the trek into the Auckland studios to be with us, sharing their wisdom and their thoughts on matters rural. We've really appreciated it. A big thanks too, as you'll see in a moment, to all the talented people behind the scenes who work so hard each week to bring the show to you. I'm Karen McCarthy. This has been Straight Talk.
Looking at you makes me smile, so enjoy yourself all the while. Standing at the dock awaiting your Pequod to sail about the turbulent sea. You'll have the right if you love